There aren't a whole lot of car movies out there, and even fewer of those can actually be considered good. And this, in a large part, is due to the fact that they seem to isolate their core audiences, which is us car nuts. And we don't really need a whole lot of stuff, just two or three things done well. That is, competent acting, plausible stunts by the cars on screen, and lastly, a passion and love for the cars we so adore. However, every now and again, there is a perfect storm of a movie that comes together, and I believe the F1 movie is exactly one of those. Here are some of the big talking points about the movie. I have them written down. Joseph Kosinski as its director. Now, this is the same person who directed the Top Gun Maverick movie, which I so love. Then there is Hans Zimmer handling the soundtrack. And for those of you in the know, you can understand how special this is because he can make a good movie great. Then there's the acting, which is led by Brad Pitt, but supporting cast also includes Damson Idris and Javier Bardem. All of them are capable of amazing performances. And lastly, there is the F1 personalities they managed to rope into this. That most notably includes Sir Lewis Hamilton, who's not only credited as a producer, but he's also been able to bring in other personalities such as David Croft and Martin Brundle in the commentary booth. That gives it that slight additional legitimacy and authenticity to the F1 world. Has all this potential been able to be paid off in the movie? Well, that's what I'm here to answer. Let's get into it. Now, I'm going to quickly run you through the plot of this movie, and don't mind me, I'm going to be referring to the notes I took while watching this movie or professional like. It's a fairly straightforward plot. There is a new team that's joined the F1 grid, so that's 10 teams. This is the 11th. They call Apex GP and they field two cars. The team is run by a character called Ruben, who is played by Javier Bardem, and he's a former F1 driver and now multimillionaire who owns this team. Now, his team's not been doing particularly well. It's been 2 years, they've not won any races and they've not scored any points. More importantly, there is a clause that his board of directors implemented when he purchased the team that if by 3 years no race wins take place, they will sell the team off and ensure that they're all financially taken care of. This is something the owner Ruben does not want to do. It's a passion project. So, in the third season, halfway through after losing his primary driver, he reaches out to his old pal Sonny Hayes, played by Brad Pitt. And he is being brought into this team to give a new perspective as he has experience with a whole bunch of different motorsports, everything ranging from endurance racing to off-roading, rally, all that stuff. And he also has a bust in F1. When at a young age he got into it, he was a rookie phenomenon, but had an accident and had to leave. So the way this plays out is he comes into this team with new thoughts, new ideas, opposing the established working of the team. And he has to build a rapport with the team principal, the technical engineers, and of course his teammate, played by Desmond Idris's JP or Joshua Pierce. Now, as you'd expect, there's a whole bunch of friction between him and the team in the early races, and it takes a while for them to get into the groove of things. And the overall objective of this entire movie is to ensure that there's at least one race win from a backmarker team. I hate to interrupt the review, but just a quick side note, if you're enjoying this review so far, please do hit the like button down there and subscribe. It helps the channel out tremendously and it also will help me gauge whether you guys like this sort of content. And all this brings us to the stuff that I really liked in the movie. And let me be frank, there's a lot of things that I enjoyed. First up, there's the relationship between Javier Bardem and Brad Pitt's characters, Ruben and Sonny. It really felt quite genuine. It felt like there was history between them, and it felt like there's genuine concern and reason for each of them to be helping the other out. Now we come to Sonny and JP's characters. Their pros and cons here. Pros, I thought that they had really nice, witty banter between the two of them. sometimes a little excessive, but there were nice quips that they exchanged with each other, and it felt like there was, nice dynamic between them. Also, later on in the movie, there is a mentor mentee kind of relationship built, but this is also a little bit of a con, which I'll come to later in the video. Stick around for that. Then, as I alluded to before, Sunny and Kate's character. Now, I feel like this was a little bit of unnecessary fan service. I guess they wanted to reach out to, more audiences by having a romantic angle. They could have completely done without it and had her be fine. She independently is a smart character, very capable. I don't know why they had to intertwine that and a love angle with Sunny. But it's not that it doesn't play out well. They have very good on screen chemistry, and overall, there's a good interaction between the two of them. Every time they're on screen, it's quite entertaining and gripping. Now, I have to mention the action sequences in this movie. They were exceptionally well handled. And there are multiple aspects to all of this. I think having people from the F1 world actually overseeing some of the things that they were doing really helped in keeping the feel of the racing and thrill of it authentic. One of the reasons is that they actually took F2 cars and, reworked them to look like F1 cars, but also housing all the IMAX cameras that they needed to film. That's how they got such cool shots. And the thing is that these cars are actually doing crazy breakneck speeds down these race circuits. So that sense of speed is very real because it's actually being done by these cars. This alludes back to the point that I made right in the start, that there is a clear passion for the cars that we so adore in this movie. Very, very easy to see. And that's something that really warms my heart because that could have been a make or break for this movie. If they disrespected the cars and the drivers, I would have been very turned off from this movie. So I really like that they went to that extra effort and it feels authentic. And the way they've captured some of these races, the intense wheel to wheel battles, extremely well done. Definitely worth a watch just for that alone. Apart from that, there's a whole lot of F1 world cameos that they've got. That's a big pro in the sense that it gives a lot of authenticity to the movie. You see actual race winners, race car drivers, podium celebration teams. So you have cameos from Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and even Lewis Hamilton, of course. But they aren't so crucial to the movie. Most of it is revolving around the inner dynamics of this team rather than the rivalries with other teams. And you even have other like team bosses. You have Christian Horner at some point in the movie as a cameo. You have Toto Wolff doing a cameo. You have Zach Brown from McLaren doing his cameo. And you even have Gunther Steiner, former team principal of Haas. This movie is based in 2023, so that's why he's still part of this universe. And yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that the goal for this team was fairly realistic in the sense that they could have approached this movie with the idea that, this backmarker team is now fighting for a championship halfway through their season and it's a Herculean task and they somehow come together and pull it off. But the reality of that is that halfway through a season, it's just impossible for any team to just go from 0 points to top of the tables to win everything in F1. That would be a little too unrealistic. So the fact that their only goal was to win a single race, which is something that we have actually seen happen, a backmarker team winning the off race, with upgrades right towards the end of the season, that seems plausible. And that is something that, felt true to the F1 world. Lastly, I know I've talked about the action sequences and the way they've handled the F1 cars. I have to mention that one of my most favorite sequences came early on in the movie. That was when they're racing in the World Endurance Series. I think it was the IMSA series because it was Daytona 24 hours. And the way they captured the magic of him doing the night stunt, getting in, pushing the car. It was a Porsche GTD car, most probably. And gosh, that sequence set the tone for the movie so well. Actually, I wish that there was a standalone movie just on that. I think that would be extremely entertaining to watch. Now, down to some of the things that I thought weren't as good. Because, yeah, while this movie was on the whole pretty enjoyable, there were some slight niggles. A few things that really stood out to me. One was the tactics that they were using, and I use tactics in air quotes because what Sunny Hayes was doing was basically directly impacting his teammate. And I feel in the real world, the FIA would intervene and probably slap them with a disqualification or a ban. So I don't think that's particularly realistic. Nor is the fact that they use the radio so much, pretty much laying out all their plans on open radio. This is stuff that the media has access to. So that I found was a little odd. I feel like they should have had like more covert interactions like we do actually here on F1 team radios. Then there's also the fact that this is a backmarker team with not a whole lot of finances. So the fact that Sonny was going ahead and, spoiler alert, breaking his front wing and damaging the car. And there's so many crashes in this movie. I don't think a small team would be able to financially survive a season like that, let alone like two races like that. So that seemed fairly unrealistic considering that they already had financial constraints. Then there's slightly larger issues that I have with the movie in terms of the characters. Then there's the relationship between Joshua and Sunny. I talked about this a little earlier, how there's a pro to it. The con to that is that it felt oddly rushed and not very well paced because you go through a large chunk of the movie with them being rivals, uh rubbing shoulders, egos clashing, and not really getting along particularly well. And again, little spoiler alert, there is a sequence in the middle of the movie where they're in a race and Sunny is very clearly helping Joshua get the better result. So there you can see that he set his ego aside and he's making sure that the other driver is gonna get the better result and score the important points of the team. However, there is unfortunately a crash that happens, and he actually ends up sacrificing his points finish race to go help his teammate out of the wreckage. This is a key point in the character growth of Sunny. However, right after this, there is an angle of sabotage that is put into JP's head, which I see is very unfounded and it feels very jarring because like there's so much work done to get them on the same track. Trust is being built. How can all of that just shatter out of nowhere? It just felt unrealistic. It felt inconsistent more than anything else. And I wish they had handled this relationship a little better because it just feels like they're enemies, they're enemies, they're enemies. And then suddenly they're friends in the last act of the movie and they're rooting for each other. Like, should have probably paced that a little better. And I also said one of the negatives with the character of Kate, the fact that she doesn't get too much standalone time. So, besides all this, one of the other things that I can potentially nitpick on is the FIA's role in all of this. Uh, I feel like they've got portrayed rather well. There are no shots taken in them, despite dodgy decision making, especially over the last 5-6 years. We've seen them make some horrendous calls. And this would have been a perfect opportunity for a independent movie to be able to take a shot at these bizarre circumstances that we've seen over the last couple of seasons, with races being either red flagged or not being red flagged, decisions in terms of qualifying. They could have induced drama through those sides and aspects. But because this was an official tie-up with FIA, I feel like they had to tiptoe around them a little bit. Having said all this stuff, I just want to reiterate the fact that this was an extremely fun movie to watch. I think that they put some actual passion into making this movie. You can really see it from the effort that's gone into creating some of these stunt sequences, the way they've shot it, the cinematic approach to wheel racing was just executed phenomenally well, especially in the first half of the movie. And they also managed to do a really, really good job with the execution of the acting, the script, the fact that this is a 2.5 hour long movie and it didn't feel like it sagged at any point is a big kudos to the pacing of it all. And then, of course, the soundtrack was sublime. I think it fit in the right places and acting top notch. Every one of them delivered in terms of what they had to do. Some characters did outshine the others. I do feel like Brad Pitt and Javier Bardem, the two highlight characters in this entire movie. And we also have to really give credit to how well all of this has come across visually. Every scene seems to have been handled extremely well. And more than anything, it is the feeling that you walk away with. As the movie comes to an end, there is this real sense of warmth and achievement that you get, which is what sets a great sports movie apart from a good sports movie. And I think they have done a fantastic job. I think this is going to bring a whole lot of new people to F1, which I think was the main idea behind all of this. And I think if I was to give this movie a rating, I'd probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. If you really twisted my arms and said no half ratings, I'd probably give it a 9. It is definitely among the top car movies I have probably ever seen. It's made my top 10 list. I would love to know what your top 10 is down in the comments below. And hopefully, I get some interesting recommendations of you guys. Also, if you've seen this movie, do let me know what you guys thought of it. Did you think they could have, you know, done anything differently, or have they done a great job? I'd love to hear your opinions. And until next time, cheers.